The same patron that asked me to make the walnut sphere subsequently asked me, "Can you make a football?" And I said, "Sure, that sounds like an interesting and fun challenge." I started by cutting up some walnut for the main part of the ball. I was simply going to glue them up in layers. I had some reclaimed wood as well that I was going to use as the white lines. This is a reclaimed coffee table. So I've sanded the surfaces flat so I can glue them up into my blank. I simply clamp them with paint cans. I slowly got towards my shape on the lathe. I had a couple of waste blocks that I had glued on the ends, and I turned one end just a little too small, and it flew off the lathe. Oops, no problem. Put it back on. Refining the shape now. I got it pretty close to where I wanted it and then drew on the lines where I wanted the laces to go. I had some black limba that I cut up that I was going to use as the laces. I started by drilling holes with the drill, and then I simply chiseled out the hole. These are going to be the laces that run the length of the ball. So I turned that smooth, and I had a little bit of a gap. My chisel job wasn't that accurate. So I was making cross laces. Again, drilled holes for my ends, and then chiseled out the rest. Tested the fit. I needed a bit of sanding to fit it in there. I cut off the excess and then turned it smooth. Again, my chisel job wasn't that accurate, so I had to fill the gaps with some CA glue. Once that dried, I turned it. And then of course I sanded it. Luckily I was able to power sand. Not only did it a better job, but it took less time. Thanks to Unita for supplying the abrasives that I used. I very carefully sanded the ends off with the disc sander. Then smoothed it out with the drill sander. I finished it with spray lacquer, sanding between coats to get it nice and smooth. So that's how it turned out. I showed it to the client and he loved it. And that's what's important. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time at Cammy's Garage.